Realms of the Haunting is a mid-90s FMV horror shooter mixed with a point-and-click adventure game. Further adding to this blender of genre mishmashes is the dungeon crawler, and even elements of the Metroidvania before that was a thing. Realms of the Haunting is very much a title where they threw things at the wall to see what sticks. This genre blending leads to little out there playing like Realms. Despite the scattershot of sources, Realms is a coherent, engaging title that had me enthralled from beginning to end. Realms induces a sense of wonder that few games do. It's one of the best examples of strong art direction trumping graphic fidelity with regard to player immersion. It's a game that I couldn't wait to see what was waiting for me around the next corner, whether a new enemy, location, or cutscene. Realms makes heavy usage of FMV cutscenes to drive its bonkers plot forward. A plot that pulls heavy from orthodox and unorthodox religious texts, amongst other influences. It can be a bit much at points to follow, and there are clear signs of heavy cuts that would have helped with its cohesion. It's not as gameplay focused as other shooters of its time, or as puzzle focused of adventure game contemporaries. But it is very much a title where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. If you've never played Realms of the Haunting before, buckle up, for there is little out there like it. While rough around the edges, it is a title well worth your time, whether a vicarious experience through this video or playing it yourself. If you have interest in checking out Realms of the Haunting, you can get it off Steam or GOG. Like most older games, buying it from GOG is the superior choice. Less fiddling required to get it running and DRM free. You own it. You can get a patch for the Steam version that enables you to configure controls in-game. That's already available in the GOG version. Realms runs on DOSBox. Your mileage may vary as far as fiddling around with it to get things right depending on your system. I did have some problems with audio stuttering at first, but found a fix. I had screen tearing issues that found fixes couldn't solve. Realms kicks off with a long intro cutscene. A good 8 minutes. Starting off with a quote, "It's source unknown. Goodness reflects the light, and evil bears the seed of all darkness. These are mirrors of the soul, the reflections of the mind. Choose well. Thanks unknown for the wise words." We cut to visuals of a tranquil yet unnatural landscape. A paradise, if you will, but not for long. What looks to be a green meteor smashes into the ground, surrounded by 7 stone pillars. An angelic being emerges from the wreckage, carving archaic symbols into the nearby pillars. This doesn't make a lick of sense at the moment, but looking back on it after completing Realms does have some significance. It is an attention grabber, to say the least. We cut to our protagonist, a young man named Adam Randall, in the back of a taxi. A child of divorce, Adam's father died 6 months ago. He's reflecting and in a bit of a state of regret over the relationship.
You know how it is. You think you've got all the time in the world to sort things out. There's always something else to be doing. He'll call him next week. Then the letter from the lawyers, and suddenly it's all too late. Nothing you can do. All the words you wanted to say, silenced. Forever.
Adam's father was a pastor in the Cornish village of Helston. Well liked amongst the people, he made time for everyone. Except for Adam, a bit of an absentee father. Adam has found himself troubled by vivid dreams of a house, along with more pleasant ones.
I had other dreams at that time too. Just as real, but not unpleasant. Quite the opposite. I was certain that I'd never met her, but that she really existed. Somewhere.
I love the little eyebrow raise this angelic woman does. Have to wonder how pleasant these dreams do get. A priest comes to visit Adam, claiming to have met his father at a conference a couple of years back. They've stayed in touch. His name is Elias Camber. Yeah, with that hair and mustache, you know this Elias fellow is one to be skeptical of. Adam has done his due diligence. There's no priest of that name in Cornwall. A few months before his death, the letters from Adam's father to Elias grew more agitated. He discovered something about a strange house in the outskirts of the village. Elias gives Adam a parcel from his father. Adam didn't give much thought to it for some time, but the dreams have turned to nightmares. Within the parcel is fragments of a carved object, with a few pieces missing. Research into what this carved object can be has drawn a blank. Adam arrives at the house. What has drawn Adam here and what it wants? That's what he's looking to get to the bottom of. It did take me a bit to realize who Adam's actor reminded me of. Then it clicked. There is a strong resemblance to Anakin Skywalker himself, Hayden Christensen. On the actor himself, David Tuomi, this is the only credit on IMDb for him. What did he do before or after this? Where is he now? Who knows? Near the entrance of the mansion, we can find a typewriter with no ink ribbon. Can't help but feel this is a reference to Resident Evil, which did come out about 9 months before Realms.
Ink ribbon's missing.
It won't be long until we come across the trapped spirit of Adam's father. He begs for us to free him from this prison and hints at the stakes of our journey.
It is not just a matter of my son's destiny. Stakes are far greater than you can possibly imagine.
Dad, please. I don't understand.
You must try, my boy. Find Alf. He is a kindred spirit and will be as a brother to you.
These ghost knights show up to drag Adam's father away. Gotta love those mid-90s special effects on a budget of them showing up. In this room, we have a classic bookshelf with hidden door that takes us beneath a mansion. A maze-like dungeon full of twists and turns and lava. Plenty of occult imagery dotting the floors and walls. There are several key moments to the plot that happen during this stretch. Like Adam getting branded while sitting on this throne. I mean, look at this throne. Who wouldn't want to take a moment and have a seat? I love the goofy charm these camera cuts add to this scene. Another key pickup is the staff that we could use in combat, along with the Shrive, an object of unknown importance at the moment. Further in, we'll run into Elias Camber, the so-called priest from the intro, correspondent with Adam's father. Boy, does Elias ever chew up the scenery. He's one of those characters where I kept wondering when he would show up next. What kind of mischief would he be up to? He's the living embodiment of the mustache-twirling villain, both figuratively and literally.
Where is my father?
Here. There. Everywhere.
I love this one little exchange at the beginning of our conversation. He's so menacing with but one word.
You.
Me.
The you, me sequence of dialogue. Can be a bit of a cliche, but they use it so well here. It could be something menacing like how the show Lost made use of it, or something more humorous like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
You. Me. You. Me. You.
There's few insights we'll gain from this conversation, which will be par for the course in Realms. Get used to it. After Elias leaves, we'll run across an ally that Adam's father said to look for. He'll speak in metaphors and riddles, never giving us a direct answer. But he does give us an idea of what's at stake in our quest to seek answers.
Alf, my father told me about you. Listen to me, and listen well. There are powers working here that would ensure that you fail in this quest, and desire you humiliated and dead beside.
Returning to the study where we found Adam's father, we'll bump into someone waiting for us. One bearing a strong resemblance to the angel from Adam's pleasant dreamscapes.
I'm Rebecca Trevisard.
Pleased to meet you, Rebecca Trevisard. Adam Randall. You can read minds.
Read minds, psychic, call it what you will, it's a gift.
A mind reader, huh? Careful where those thoughts of yours travel, Adam.
Captain Raynor, I finished scouting out the area and you pig.
What? I haven't even said anything to you yet.
Yeah, but you were thinking it.
Oh, yeah. You're a telepath.
With that, the game begins proper and opens up to us. Rebecca will tag along. Sort of. You can't see her in-game unless in cutscenes. This isn't an escort mission. We don't have to worry about her dying in combat or wonky pathfinding as she falls behind. But she will impart great knowledge in our travels. On the note of travel, let's start with the control scheme. Realms of the Haunting has a control scheme that, while you could tweak to a certain extent, is a bit different than what you would get today. Industry standards for controls for FPS games weren't quite there. It's one that does take a bit of time to adjust to. Default controls have the arrow keys for movement, which I did rebind to WASD. This did lead me to wonder, when did WASD become the norm? It was around this time frame that games like Quake 2 and Half-Life helped to popularize it as more shooters made integrated free look with the mouse. Speaking of the mouse, Realm gives you some noteworthy options, like how you can move at him with the mouse. Hold the right mouse button and move it forward, backward, left or right to move in that direction. Move the mouse further and you'll move at a faster rate. It's a bit awkward at first, but you do get used to it, although I did stick with the conventional WASD. I can't think of other games I've played that control like this through the mouse. No doubt others exist from around this time frame with something similar. If you have played others like it, do let me know. You can free look in Realms, but in a different way. You'll move the cursor around the screen with the mouse, but not to look up and down. You can use page up and page down to look up or down, or if you hold both the left and right mouse button, you can look up and down or turn. Click both to recenter your viewpoint. It's a bit awkward, but something you do get used to. Realms doesn't contain frantic combat where you need precise aiming and timing. It's not the main focus. The closest comparison I can make to it control-wise of games I've covered on the channel is the original System Shock with its mouse aiming. Realms has an option with its cursor that makes exploration and finding items far less frustrating than it could have been. So many point-and-click titles fall victim to the dreaded pixel hunt, where you missed an object ages back that you now need as it blended into the environment. With a first-person title, it can be easy to miss objects, but Realms does something with its interface I can't recall many other games doing. When you can interact with an object, your mouse pointer shows a green light. If you can interact with an object but are out of range, the pointer shows a blue light. It makes navigating through these dense rooms so much easier. You don't have to go up to every single object to see if you can interact with it. You can see for yourself from a distance. On the puzzle front, Realms will be a bit barren until the game's end stretch when we hit a puzzle gauntlet. One that wouldn't feel out of place in a classic survival horror game. There are a few puzzles throughout, but it's this maze-like world that acts as the main puzzle to solve. When we start a game beyond combat difficulty, Realms offers us a choice between easy and hard for adventure level. What difference does this entail? Does it make the puzzles more difficult? You would think so, but no. If you select easy, the game will auto-select inventory items for usage on objects like locked doors or pedestals, assuming you do have the right item. If you play on hard, you have to go into your inventory yourself to choose the correct item. You can switch between these two quote-unquote difficulties at any point with the press of a button. For convenience sake, I preferred having it on easy. The game won't do everything for us, however. There is one later stretch where a puzzle requires item combinations and proper item placement. That's up for us to solve. There's no in-game map. You have to view it in your inventory when you pick them up. As well, they don't indicate where you are. While they have much information, it's up to you to decipher where you are and where you need to go. Beyond a few stretches, I didn't find myself resorting to a map too often. I would get a feel for these locales in short order. There would be points in the mansion where I would need to pause for a second, try to remember where I need to go next. Or would get lost for a minute or two, then realize where I am after opening a door. If you asked me to draw a map of the main mansion, I could do a decent job of replicating it. An indicator of distinct, memorable level design. There's an amusing bit in one part of the mansion that has a bit of a maze-like path. I could take a guess of which path to take, or I could follow this trail of dead rats to find where I need to go. While the mansion is a key locale, we will find ourselves traveling to faraway locations, one acting as a hub to other realms to visit. There will be some backtracking, but beyond one stretch is well within reason. In a way, you could feel some of that Zelda DNA within Realms of the Haunting. Even bits and pieces of a Metroidvania with regard to exploration, which was still very much in its infancy at the time. Realms' release window was right around Castlevania Symphony of the Night. We have the exploration, we have the adventure game elements. What about the shooter side of Realms? Compared to other shooters of its time, it gives less focus to its combat, but it is an important element nonetheless. With combat, you don't have to be facing them to hit your shots. As long as your cursor is over an enemy, your aim will be true. The early game will feature more conventional weapons with ammo, a pistol and a shotgun. Both have satisfying sounds, although feedback on hits is a bit lacking with enemy character models. That said, they did great work with these enemies. There's a decent variety of demonic entities to fight. Some are your standard demonic affairs. Not sure why these early game enemies are wearing these yellow pants. Well, it was the 90s at the time. My favorite enemy were these mobster-like demons donning suits. Where the game shines with its enemies are their animations. You could tell they put plenty of care and attention to their movement and death animations. A real standout with what Realms brings to the table, and there is plenty that it brings. Most enemies stroll toward you at a bit of a crawl for a melee strike. Although some will be silent and you may find yourself hit from behind unaware. Later enemies will throw projectiles, but they're not spamming them with reckless abandon. The mobster demons can switch back and forth between a projectile and a hit scan attack. As long as you are thorough in your exploration, there's plenty of ammo to find. But as we progress through Realms, further weapons won't need ammo. We'll come across staffs, swords, and magical devices that work on a charge. These tend to be far more powerful than guns. Check out this one early game find with a staff. Everything about it screams plasma rifle from Doom. For some recharging weapons, you need to have them selected to recharge. Others will recharge in the background. I'd find myself shuffling weapon to weapon during combat, then allowing them to recharge and exploring during downtime. Although at first I would shuffle through them in a haphazard manner by bringing up the inventory, which pauses the game. You can assign hotkeys to 5 weapons, but it's not the most intuitive. The manual mentions placing weapons in the first 5 weapon boxes for a hotkey, but I couldn't figure out why I couldn't move them. What you need to do is left-click an item, and while over the slot, right-click it. I kept left-clicking to no avail, and out of frustration hit the right mouse button. I'm not sure why they did this. The manual doesn't make mention of it. Of course, you can run past enemies, and they will respawn. Nothing is stopping you there. There's nothing here that's going to give you a major challenge on the combat front. Most of Realm's challenges reside elsewhere. There's one moment of unintentional hilarity where we enter a library. The security system warns us of our intrusion. It builds up to being this big deal when we set it off, and it sends in one enemy that we fought dozens of times already.
Sir, please forgive me again, but further to my request, you have failed to procure the library code. Under your instructions, I must ask you one further time. Failure to reply will result in the instigation of your security measure.
I think we'd better be making tracks.
Failure to reply. Intruder in library.
God.
Realms makes heavy usage of cutscenes to drive the plot forward. Around 90 minutes worth throughout the game. Realms are released on a hefty 4 discs, with FMV cutscenes and audio compressed to hell and back to get everything to fit. Even then, they ended up cutting around an hour's worth of cutscenes that they wanted to include. This becomes more obvious in the game's end stretch, but hold that thought for now. Part of me would like to see how these cutscenes would look uncompressed. I wouldn't mind seeing Realms get a similar treatment to the Night Trap 25th Anniversary remaster, where you could experience the game's video in a resolution that wasn't compressed to within an inch of its life. Although the cutscene would lose some of that charm if they did remove the heavy compression, where despite the higher quality, something doesn't feel quite right to what you're used to. A few years ago, the archive channel of NoClip released HD footage of the infamous Sony E3 2006 press conference. There's something surreal about watching it this way compared to the 240p potato quality from back in the day. Something that's hard to explain but feels off. Cutscenes are only part of the plot equation. There's plenty of notes to find and read throughout our travels. Some which can be quite lengthy and a bit difficult to read. A combination of cursive writing and low resolutions would have me straining my eyes to make my way through them. Most I would read on the game's wiki if need be. You don't need to read all of them, for they will come up in our talks with Rebecca. In our inventory, there's a section on information, where Adam can have an inner reflection on people, places, or items, or talk to Rebecca about them. This list will grow throughout the game. Some people, places, or items will have further options as we progress, although the game doesn't give any indication, so you have to go through them again to see if there's anything more to discuss. I love listening to these dialogue exchanges for a couple of reasons. Adam and Rebecca can have a bit of a fun banter between each other, which will continue elsewhere as we progress. The other is Rebecca's voice. It's so warm and soothing to listen to.
In lucid dreams, the dreamer is aware of dreaming and can decide whether to continue the dream or end it. So, the dreamer essentially manipulates the dream.
Her actress, Emma Powell, has gone on to have a long career in voiceover work with focus on audiobooks and commercials. Rebecca here is a wealth of knowledge. She mentions she's a professor and very much a bookworm. She can be a bit cheeky to Adam at points, but never outright condescending. A bit playful.
Turquoise.
Your pronunciation's terrible, Adam. It should be pronounced turquoise.
So a tortoise is actually a tortoisie then? Knight, or some soldier. Definitely Norman period, though.
You're not the idiot I first took you for, are you?
The design on this is similar to the floor stone in the fountain room.
Your observation's going to be a credit to you one day, Adam Randall.
I have to point out the absurd nature of her concept art. Could you imagine if they went with this design where it looks like she stepped out of something from a manga? This dark outfit idea they had is much better, but the Agent Scully-inspired look with her pantsuit was the right choice. When I first entered the Mansion in the Realms, I was getting a bit of Lovecraftian vibes. That feeling would fade to something else in a short period of time, something pulling more from religions, from occult sources. While the lead developers were fans of Lovecraft and avid tabletop players of Call of Cthulhu, it wasn't much of a source for inspiration. Much of Realms took influence from religion, both orthodox and unorthodox. They took heavy influence from Hebrew texts on the realms of heaven, earth, and hell, along with angels and demons. Very much a rich tapestry to pull from. And beyond this rich religious tapestry, one noted film that served as a source of inspiration was 1983's The Keep, a movie I did not know existed prior to making this video. Color me shocked as well that Michael Mann directed it, being his second film. It's quite outside his wheelhouse, a supernatural horror film set in Romania during World War II. When I think Michael Mann, I think Heat, Miami Vice, Collateral, Manhunter. I did give it a watch for this video. It is a bit of a mess. It had a troubled development, the special effects supervisor died during post-production, Paramount forced numerous cuts to reduce its runtime. It is a bit of an outlier for Michael Mann's movies, but like his other films, is dripping in atmosphere. Tangerine Dream did the soundtrack to boot. I can see the influence it had on Realms on the atmosphere front. What you have with Realms is an experience that's familiar, yet nothing quite like it out there, even all these years later. Before diving into the major beats, plots, highlights, and lowlights of Realms, I did want to paint a further picture of its release timeframe. One on its developer, Gremlin Interactive. Second is what was going on at the time with shooters and adventure games. Starting as a computer store in the mid-1980s, Gremlin would move into the realm of game development. They would cut their teeth making games for the ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64. They made all sorts of games. Their bread and butter for commercial success came from sports and racing games. I first discovered Realms of the Haunting through Ross's Game Dungeon, but this wasn't the first Gremlin interactive game he covered on the channel. That would be 1984's Potty Pigeon. Gremlin pitched a game that blends the FPS with the point and click. Development looks to have began around mid-1994, timeframe that saw many developers trying to capitalize on two notable titles from the year prior. For the shooter side of the equation, Doom. For the adventure game, Myst. But there was little out there that tried to do both like Realms did. The game would use the true 3D engine. Although don't let that name fool you. Like the Doom or Build engine, this was a 2.5D engine. This wouldn't be the only title of Gremlins to use the true 3D engine. Normality, which released in mid-1996, a few months before Realms, would use it. Although there were no shooter elements. Normality was strictly an adventure title. And once again, bringing up Ross's Game Dungeon, Normality is the most recent episode as of writing. Realms would have a 2.5-year development cycle, 1 year longer than planned. It released in England in late December of 1996. For other countries in the West, the spring of 1997. Within that 2.5 years from development to release, much changed in the industry. Starting on the shooter side of the equation, 1996 had two monumental FPS releases. Those two titles being Duke Nukem 3D and Quake. Duke Nukem using the Build engine, a 2.5D engine, with Quake using the Quake engine, with full 3D rendering. Enormous leaps on the technological front from what came before. Both titles are some of the best the genre has to offer, and gaming in general. 1997 would see further iterations and expansions on these engines. Blood was another notable title using the Build engine. Quake 2 would shift to the Quake 2 or id Tech 2 engine to push technology even further. On the note of pushing technology, this timeframe saw the rise of the dedicated graphics card. 3DFX would release their inaugural Voodoo graphics card, with Quake being one of its main selling points through its 3DFX acceleration.
3DFX PC accelerators. So powerful, it's kind of ridiculous.
Blast his freaky head off!
1997 was a notable year for the shooter genre with the ascent of console shooters. Yes, they could be foggier than Silent Hill and frame rates that even Unreal Engine 5 would be ashamed of. They hadn't quite figured out how to handle the controls in an intuitive manner due to limitations of controls at the time, but shooters had started to make their presence known on consoles, with notable titles including Turok and GoldenEye 007. As the FPS was continuing to grow in dominance, what about the adventure game, the point and click? While they still had some mileage left, the commercial viability of the adventure game was beginning to peter out by this time frame. The industry was starting to move away from FMV elements. Games like Phantasmagoria 1 and 2 and Harvester would push the boundaries of taste with their twisted tales and humor, although would end up being sales disappointments. There were still some of those Hollywood connections found in the genre, like Westwood's Blade Runner title from 1997 diving further into that world. Other FMV-based games would feature famous actors like Christopher Walken in Ripper or Christopher Lloyd in Toonstruck. LucasArts would continue their strong run of adventure titles with The Curse of Monkey Island. While beloved, they weren't quite hitting the sales numbers they had been. There is one major exception, Riven, the sequel to Myst. Despite its release in late October of 1997, it was the best-selling PC game of the year. Well-deserved too. You can make a strong argument for being the peak of the genre, or games in general. It's a game you can look to for a masterclass in environmental storytelling and puzzle design. Once you hit 1998 and beyond, the point-and-click became much more of a niche genre. Grim Fandango would be a commercial disappointment and would be the second last LucasArts adventure game after Escape from Monkey Island in 2000. European developers would still put them out on the regular, but never quite reaching the commercial appeal they had in the 90s. More suited for computers, with the rise of console gaming, numbers would further dwindle, with the odd exception. Today, it's still very much a niche genre, with indies bearing the point-and-click torch. The FPS, on the other hand, only continued to grow in its popularity. There would be shifts as the genre continued to evolve, moving away from an arcade-style approach, or what gets called a boomer shooter these days, to something more scripted and cinematic. Once you hit the early 2000s with the rise of the sixth generation of gaming, the Dreamcast, PS2, GameCube, and Xbox era, the technology and controllers caught up to make the FPS viable on consoles. So during all this, here comes a game that tries to blend the two genres as one sees an explosion in growth, while the other begins to fade away. Speaking of explosive growth, before making this video, I had no idea the ties that Gremlin Interactive had with the Grand Theft Auto series. A more indirect, loose connection, but one still worth noting. The ownership and handing off of studios after the release of the first Grand Theft Auto is a complex web to decipher, but fascinating to untangle to see where the series came from. In the spring of 1997, Gremlin would purchase developer DMA Design for about £4 million. At the time, DMA Design was best known for their work on the Lemmings series, a major hit. But at this time, DMA was in a state of financial disarray. One key reason was spreading themselves too thin over multiple projects. Another was a partnership deal falling through with Nintendo. Gremlin had interest in DMA's game engine and technology and bought the company. One project that didn't have a ton of support from the higher-ups at DMA was Grand Theft Auto. Despite this, the first Grand Theft Auto released in late 1997 to commercial success. With a dose of controversy, one that would only grow in future entries, BMG Interactive published the first Grand Theft Auto. Take-Two would acquire the IP rights to Grand Theft Auto in 1998 after acquiring BMG Interactive. Gremlin Interactive found themselves in dire financial straits after disappointing sales for two 1998 DMN games, that being Space Station Silicon Valley and Body Harvest. In 1999, Infogrames would swoop in and buy Gremlin for £24 million. Later that year, Take-Two would buy DMA Design from Infogrames for £1 and assuming about $12 million in DMA's debt. Infogrames was fine in parting with DMA Design as they focused on having a family-friendly image, despite not owning the rights to GTA. DMA Design, now under the Rockstar Games umbrella, would go on to continue work on the series. They would make history with Grand Theft Auto 3, a true game changer in the industry in every sense of the word. They would rebrand to Rockstar North in 2002 and remain the lead studio on GTA to this day. Man, you know one of those decision makers at Infogrames must still lose sleep at night for parting with DMA. One of those fascinating what-ifs to think about. How would DMA have performed under Infogrames? What would they have worked on? How would the GTA series pan out without DMA at the helm? So while not a strong tie to the series, Gremlin Interactive at one point did have a connection to Grand Theft Auto. Yet another fascinating case to how much change was happening at the time. With all that aside, let's continue on with Realms. Let's go through the major plot beats, the highlights, and the lowlights. Rebecca will share a vision of a man outside the entrance of the house. He bears the Ace of Spades. Who he is and why he's here is unknown at the moment. but he sure is intriguing. This moment between Adam and Rebecca holding hands to share the vision does hint at something growing between them. Their growing relationship will be one of the better elements of Realm's plot moving forward. Using a portal, Adam finds himself separated from Rebecca and whisked away to an Egyptian temple? Pyramids? This doesn't look to be of our time. We'll meet another enigmatic figure who speaks in riddles, never giving straightforward answers.
I am known by many names throughout time. To you, I am known as the Gnarl.
Gnarl? What kind of name is that? All right. So you're known by many names through time. What are you, some kind of time traveler?
No. I am constant. It is time that is the traveler here.
He'll tell us about the tower, our next destination in our journey, and gives us a test to see if we are worthy.
Okay, but I don't...
Done. I'm tired of triviality. I told you to trust in time, and you have.
And that's it for the Gnarl. No further appearances. I like to think if they did integrate the other hour or so of footage they wanted to, he would show up again at some point. What, where, and when is this place? You can take a look outside, but you can't explore. But does it ever give a sense of wonder that few games can do? Especially when you compare it to what you get today, where every large budget title finds itself packed to the brim in hyper-realism and detail, where there is no room for the player to fill the blanks on their own, where many modern titles give credence to the saying, the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. Limitations of technology at the time necessitated developers to get more creative. When you give that space for players to fill in the blanks, you create something that remains in the player's mind. The visuals and art direction of Realms of the Haunting very much hold up in creating something that sticks with you. With the masks we found in the temple, we can find a portal in the mansion to take us to the tower. Despite its name, it's not a tower in the typical sense. Someone will greet us upon our arrival. The last of the gardeners of the tower, Raphael. He's a bit more direct compared to the others we have spoken to, although he won't have too much to part with at the moment.
Raphael, guide to the tower, and the last of its gardeners. Those who perished or fled when the ire came to this place. I remain here to ward and protect all those who come here, and to aid them in any way that I can. Whatever your reasons for coming here, you must know that you must make all decisions on your own.
This tower is a place between worlds, connecting the four realms. Earth, where we came from, is one of the four. And as great as that Egyptian section did for building a sense of wonder, the tower stretches top it. I had to take it all in when I first stepped back into gameplay after our talk with Raphael. Floating platforms in the dark cloud sky, the flashing of lightning in the distance, the bushes blowing in the wind. These narrow paths where we could plunge to our death if we're not careful. It gave me pause to take in the environment around me as I let out a wow under my breath. Another case of countless cases where strong art direction will always triumph over graphic fidelity in immersing the player. On the topic of atmosphere, the music of Realms, it's fine. Nothing that I would call outstanding, especially when you compare it to shooters or adventure contemporaries, but it does contain some catchy tracks and melodies. This 1996 timeframe was also reaching the end of this style of MIDI music in games. With better audio hardware and growing storage capabilities, games would shift away from MIDI-based music.
Plenty of this rubble around. Plenty of this rubble around. Someone's coat of arms, maybe. Doesn't appear to be working. Doesn't appear to be working.
The tower works more as a hub between the four realms. There will be stretches where enemies pop up, but nothing too difficult to handle. While you can use your map for directions, the stone pillars will have markings and a voice to tell us what lies in each direction. Speaking of voices, we'll hear various blurbs coming from unseen spirits at random intervals, implying some greater, grander struggle that's been going on for untold periods of time.
Fallen, my lord, the chamber is theirs. It was Thomas. The traitor was Thomas.
While the tower will take us to other realms, they are inaccessible at the moment. Instead, we'll be venturing further underneath the mansion into a cave. An unseen spirit will impart some wisdom, yet another case of vague statements about what's at stake, and another moment where Adam and Rebecca linger for a moment or two longer as they let go of each other's hands.
Balance. What balance?
place. Please keep talking. Don't go. Where is this chamber?
There's a maze to navigate in these caves, where it can be easy to find yourself turned around. There's a new flying enemy type to deal with. Realms begins to throw enemies with projectiles our way moving forward. There's something peculiar about these winged demons' cries. Feels like they mixed in the sounds of a seagull. Further past the cave is one of Alf's treasured items that he told us to collect. One that will help give us safe passage.
It will prove sovereign against both spear and dagger. Against the ungodly, it will shield the heart and ward the soul. But heed me well. The most subtle danger you must face comes from within.
There's notes down here that reveal that Elias Camber, the mustache extraordinaire priest, isn't who he says he is. He is Claude Florentine, someone who's been around since the 1300s. His goal is to destroy these 7 seals and deliver the world into the hands of Satan. Once again, these conversations with Rebecca are handy if you don't want to dig through these long notes that can be difficult to read. Further under the mansion, we'll come across another unseen spirit who seems to be an ally.
Who are you? What is your name?
Alf will reappear after we find one of his daggers, giving us a vague warning how we can use it against a foe who seeks to harm us. But only once. As always, he never speaks in a direct manner. That said, he does give a reason for why that is the case. The laws of his realm and position forbid it. Boy, that's convenient to avoid giving a straight answer. It won't be long until we bump into who Alf warned us about. And boy, was that warning warranted.
Yes. Unfortunately, unlike Alf, I am not remotely interested in gaining your trust. My sole concern is that you cease this tiresome charade. Right now.
Lieutenant. That's what Alf said. That's you, isn't it?
So you can recite what you've been told. Very clever. And your charming lady friend. My dear, why don't you use your undoubted influence and persuade this young man to close his mouth?
Those gloves Belial is donning, made from the skins of countless torture victims so he could hold on to the shrive that Adam possesses. This game can lead to a game over if we choose to part with the shrive.
The gloves work. Florentine was wrong. I will be master. Master of all. Starting with you. Well, that's that then.
To continue, we use Alf's dagger to fend Belial off, at least for now. While I've been a bit neutral about Adam up until now, he did further win me over with this one-liner.
We'll ask him to be back for that.
Yeah. Can't wait to see his tan.
The actor playing Belial, David Lerner, played Marvin the paranoid android in the BBC adaptation of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Such a stark contrast to this character here. Everyone else does a great job in Realms, but Belial is the major standout. Moving forward, we can use this dagger of Alf's in our growing list of charged weapons beyond firearms. Heading further into the mansion, Adam and Rebecca will spy on the Ace of Spades man from earlier. His name is Gaul, which we can discover in notes or in talking to Rebecca.
By the 7 we bound. By the 7 to come. Power of 1. Thy will be done.
With Alf's dagger in tow, we can now venture to one of the other 3 of the 4 realms, Raquia, the realm of spirit. In another case of pulling heavy from Hebrew texts, Raquia is of Hebrew origin. It refers to the dome structure that separates heaven and earth. Well, would you look at that? More mazes, and a hedge maze at that. This one isn't too bad compared to what we'll find later. There's something about this music track here. This one melody conveys a feeling of mischief. The word bouncy also comes to mind. Araquia will be less about testing our combat prowess and more about our wits. Along with deciphering adventure game logic that can be a bit questionable, our goal here is to find the Key of Tears to unlock further realms. Were it so easy, the spirit will challenge us to solve the roadblocks, else will we become his prisoner.
You mentioned games and stakes. What games are these?
The first test is to find the spirit ring. Without this, you may not enter my tower. The key is yours if you can solve the riddle and pass by my ear without waking me.
We'll have to find a few items first in the hedge maze before entering the spirit's tower. There's even a platforming section where we must avoid the floor before encountering the main challenges, a set of rooms with roadblocks to overcome. Funny enough, one of them deals with something connected to the Odyssey, which as of reading the script hit the silver screen. There's a woman with a key around her neck, but she'll damage us as we approach her. That is, unless you use earplugs so you can approach her to collect the key. These puzzles here are very much a case of trial and error. Some rooms will need others finished first to use items elsewhere, like these spectacles that allow us to see the traps set in a room, or a room we could wear that silences our steps on a squeaky surface. Our trials complete, we obtain the Key of Tears. With the key in hand, we need to head back to where we encountered Hawk and Belial. There was a lock that we didn't have the key for, but do now. A bit of a bizarre design decision, we have to make the entire trek back ourselves. Instead of having a portal by the Key of Tears, we have to go all the way back through the hedge mazes, through the tower, back to the mansion, and underground. It took a good 8 minutes or so while sprinting to make my way back. It's not like it was confusing to remember the way back, it wasn't, but it felt unnecessary as the game doesn't have another situation quite like this one. Nothing different happens between here and the lock between a few more enemies showing up. This key will unlock more than this lock. It also frees Hawk, who looks like the costume department decided to pass on putting any effort into his outfit. Like the actor strolled in one day and they said, let's go with that. Unlike the others we run into, Hawk will be more than willing to speak in a more direct manner.
Free to restore the balance. I assume you're Hawk. I am Hawk. What will it be? I thought you might have the answers. They are closer to you than most.
Perhaps you can give us some?
Ask that I may answer.
We could ask him more or less everything under the sun. People, places, items. This serves as a giant exposition dump. Key things to note. The Soul Stone, neutrality of the universe. The channel of all man's thoughts, good or evil, filters through. The future and fate of mankind hangs in the balance of the Soul Stone. Hawk himself is a creation of the Soul Stone, along with Alf, and on the other side of the coin, Belial and Gaul. Belial, which means liar, is one of the more powerful demons of hell. A doppelganger of Florentine, born from the evil of his soul. Belial and Florentine seek to give Satan a host to manifest into, that being the bearer of the Ace of Spades, Gaul. Belial and Florentine may have the same goal, but are now enemies. To be united by hatred is a fragile alliance at best, both vying for the attention of Satan. Marked as a Shrive Bearer, only Adam can return the balance of the Soul Stone. For that, he needs to find the Sword Eternity. While getting more concrete reasoning behind the World of Realms did help, this scene does have issues. It's a huge dump of information all at once. Something you could have spread over the course of the game. If every other character had been so vague and enigmatic, they could have given us more insight and not leave so much of it to this one stretch. One of my favorite exposition dump moments in the game is the talk with Vigil in the first Mass Effect. When I think of the Mass Effect series, this moment pops to mind as the highlight. A cathartic late-game exposition dump to give more clarity to the plot and stakes at hand. This exposition dump in Realms, clunky and nowhere close to matching it. As well, we're a little over halfway mark when it comes to chapters. Chapter 11 of 20. That said, not all chapters are equal in length. Some you could finish within a handful of minutes, others can have a wide variance in length depending on how lost you find yourself. With the path unlocked, we'll venture to the church Adam's father resided over in the village and his nearby house, which is quite a nice crib, at least space-wise. This chapter further downplays the action as we navigate through this large house. It's a bit more of an uneasy feeling in the air. More horror and more mystery, like this television set showing Adam and Rebecca.
Hey, that's us. But I didn't see any cameras.
Do you think someone knew we were coming?
Another optional find lies within the basement behind a locked door. The Tree of Knowledge. or at least an image of it from a faraway place.
Hey, what is this place?
I've no idea. But it's an image we're looking at. It's not really here. See how it's shifting?
Speaking of images, there's a fun little Easter egg here that I didn't catch at first. A photo of a band playing on the wall. One that did look familiar, but couldn't put my finger on it. It's one of Radiohead from the music video of Just. We'll gain entrance to the church, where Adam makes an interesting observation. A painting on the stained glass of an angelic woman. She bears a strong resemblance to Adam's mother. We never hear much about her otherwise, but from what I gather, Adam lived with her when his parents divorced. This leads me to wonder if they did have more in mind with her, whether cut content or in a sequel that would never come. But there's one notable stained glass work here that catches their eyes. One of St. Michael casting a demon out of heaven. We'll find another one of Alf's possessions, the dragon helm that grants passage to further realms.
We meet again. This time through the dragon helm.
This stops me getting smashed over the back of the head, right?
This next realm will strip us of all our possessions. But there's no combat here, only puzzles. I do use the term puzzle in a loose manner. It's more a case of find items and find what order to combine the items. That said, the items aren't hidden away in some corner. It's more about combining items in the right order. Musing that one of the items is a water pipe.
Water pipe? A hookah, if I'm not mistaken.
Oriental tobacco pipe.
Yeah, tried one once. Principle's that the smoke's drawn up through the water in the vase area from whatever's being burned.
Whatever being the operative word.
But once we get the right combination and put them in the right order, this water entity will emerge, take a hit, and give us the sword eternity. Yeah, I don't know what's going on either, but I'm past that point. Suspension of disbelief. Whatever Realms throws at you, take it in stride.
Dragon sword.
This sword continues to grow our ever-expanding inventory, one that can use a charge for projectile or a melee strike while recharging. Heading off to the next realm, we'll reunite with our father, carried away by those knights from earlier. With them is Belial, who is sporting a nasty scar courtesy of our attack from earlier.
Mention his veins. His only hope really is you, and there you are with your hands tied behind your back. Metaphorically speaking, that silly girl. Loving son watching his father being beaten, humiliated. You have made this a very personal battle.
Given the choice, what does Adam do? Fight? No. In exchange for mercy for his father, Adam gets sent off to prison. Belial will take the sword and try from Adam, but funny enough, leaves the rest of our equipment. What's stopping Adam here from using our assortment of weapons against Belial at this moment? As we will see a few chapters from now, Belial does talk a big game, but is a bit of a paper tiger. This is a sequence of events where it felt like there should have been another scene before Adam ends up in prison. And another one while in prison. As mentioned, they did cut a good 60 minutes of cutscenes due to time, cost, and memory constraints. Realms took a good 2.5 years of development, about a year longer than planned. Yet moments like these make it feel like they could have used another 6 months or so. This will only continue as we move into the game's final quarter. Through a necklace she hands us before parting, Rebecca will talk to us from a distance, and before you know it, there she'll be at the door, breaking us out of our cell.
You're right.
Yeah, I think so. You?
Yeah, fine. Shall we go?
Belial's taken all our things.
Man, this romantic tension between Adam and Rebecca is such an elephant in the room. It's been building throughout this journey, to the point where I said, "Kiss damn it" at the screen during this scene. I think the last game I've covered on the channel that made me do this is Resident Evil 6 with Sherry and Jake. Here's to hoping, unlike those two, they actually go through with it. There's a nearby hedge maze we need to navigate to the center of to escape back to the tower. Even with a map, I got lost over and over, getting nowhere. So I looked to a guide for some advice. Turns out there's an easier solution. We could put the mask on in our inventory at any point within the maze to warp back to the tower. Seems to be a glitch for why we could do that. Considering how much time I spent trying to get to the middle of this maddening maze, fine by me. So I guess we'll have to go hunt down Belial to reclaim the Sword of Eternity and the Shrive, won't we? Surprise, surprise, we do not. It's not far from us, tucked away in a side path in the tower. When I approached it, I had to think, this is some kind of trap, is it not? Belial left it behind for us to find, but there must be a catch. Nope, we take them as is. No trap, no consequences for our actions, which leads me to wonder why Belial even bothered to take them away from us. Yet another moment that screams rushed out the door to meet a deadline, where once again it feels like there should have been a cutscene at some point to give more context. With the Shrive and Sword returned to its rightful owner, we can now head to the Fourth Realm and find ourselves at the Gates of Sheol. In the Hebrew Bible, this is the underworld. We have a cloaked figure waiting for us, Abaddon, keeper of the key to the abyss.
Can you tell us anything about the worlds beyond the gate?
I can tell you nothing. You must enter. There is no other way.
We come in search of the Soul Stone.
Know then that the arch will take you there. Step forward. Enter.
Stepping through the gate, we find ourselves separated from Rebecca. This stretch here is very much in the realm of how did this ever make it past playtesting? It is by far the worst stretch in the game by a country mile. We need to collect 16 brains found throughout this maze-like area to feed into a machine. Why? Beats me. There's no map of this maze. At least one in-game. God bless the individual who created a guide for the game on Steam. He drew a map of the brains' locations. This could very much be a section where you spend much time here and gathering them all. Wouldn't surprise me if players found themselves lost for hours trying to pick up all the pieces without a guide. I did discover a game feature that I didn't realize was there before in the stretch. If you press the tilde key, you can change the environment to low resolution. But the brains won't change. There are a few brain placements that can blend in with the environment, but using this feature made them easier to spot. Even with the map and this feature, I did have that feeling of trepidation as I approached the machine to drop off all the brain pieces. Did I collect them all? Happy to say that I did so we could get out of here and move on. Returning through the gate, we'll find Rebecca fighting with Abaddon, or at least claiming to be Abaddon, and we get some major revelations about Rebecca.
Tell him he has a traitor for a companion. Tell him Rebecca Jane. Tell him.
Rebecca Jane? RJ. My God, the letters we found.
For context of these letters Adam refers to, back in the mansion study, there's a few letters we can find stretching back to the 1920s written to Florentine from an RJ, his lover. Yeah, I guess it's a good thing you didn't kiss earlier now knowing where those lips have been. Adam tells her to piss off as he heads off on his own. Leaving Rebecca to her own devices, Adam comes across the real Abaddon, guardian of the Soul Stone. He knows her name from a long foretold prophecy, one to restore the bounce or destroy it altogether.
The thread is a web of strands that touches each one of us. You, Adam, are connected in such a way that the thread bends to you. You create rather than flow with the current.
We have a few tests left before we reach the Soul Stone. First test involves mirrors. These invincible creatures will pop out of them. Only punching and destroying the mirrors will kill them. I always love older games with destructible environments. As far as punching mirrors goes, Realms is quite satisfying in its feel. Venturing further onward, we'll once again come across our good pal Hawk ripping a head off one of those knights we saw earlier. Because why not? He's not one to trifle with. Good thing he's on our side, at least I hope he is. Now we arrive at the puzzle gauntlet. Realms has been a bit sparse when it comes to puzzles. Until now, we have 8 puzzles to solve. Most would feel a place in a survival horror game. Some are quite straightforward, others can be maddening in their ways. Like this one with 7 switches to flip to create a straight path for this turret. It's one of those ones you could solve in a handful of moves, or you can take forever. This is one of those I had to reload my game, throw out my hands, and look at a guide. That said, they do derive a decent amount of satisfaction upon solving. One highlight being this one room with bouncing shots off of floating spheres. Finding the right order to turn them for the shot to reach its end destination. And then you get to the Hall of Mirrors. Boy, did I almost lose my marbles over this one. It was agonizing reaching the end of it. At which point, you need to go back the way you came. Took me almost as long to find my way back out. Too bad at this point we couldn't just punch through these mirrors to get out of here. Like the exposition dump from earlier, I do have to question bunching all these puzzles together. Why not stretch them out over the course of the game? Imagine if a Resident Evil or a Silent Hill game bunched all their puzzles together one after another. Talk about a pacing killer. Upon solving all puzzles, one of Florentine's disciples, brandishing a flamethrower, will attack us. One that appears out of nowhere, and we get no further context for. It's another one of those moments where it feels like cut content. Like there should have been an intro cutscene to his appearance before fighting.
Come and face me, Adam! Face the fire of your soul! It burns here, and it will burn you!
In another great setting that invokes wonder, we'll find ourselves amongst a grassy castle ruins with the sun setting, painting a fitting setting for a final encounter with one of our main foes. We'll find Rebecca chained to a rock, or at least what appears to be Rebecca.
Indeed.
What have you done with her?
I have done nothing with her. Then again, why would you believe anything I said?
So here we are, one-on-one, mano-a-mano with Belial, who stands as still as a statue and shoots the occasional projectile at us. One we could circle strafe around with the greatest of ease, or use this pillar right in front of him to block his shots. What happens when he dies? Nothing of note. No parting one-liner from Adam. No cutscene of his death. You have to think in the hour or so cutscenes they did cut for constraints, this would have been one of them. At long last, we've reached the Soul Stone. But we're not alone. Hawk, Gaul, and Florentine await us. There isn't a boss fight for this section, and considering how the fight with Belial turned out, I'm fine with that. It's the decisions we make that determine the outcome. One possible outcome is trying to strike down Florentine with the sword. Fool's errand where Florentine emerges the victor.
By the seven be bound, by the seven to come, power of one, thy will be done.
But we could call his bluff and see how things play out. Florentine will use his magic to freeze us in place. But the threads of fortunes don't seem to be going his way. Gaul finds his playing cards now only to be jokers. You know, with all the various religious and occult sources Realms pulls from, wouldn't tarot cards have been more fitting than playing cards here for Gaul? Rebecca will reappear to further turn the tide in our favor. So Rebecca, who is far older than she says she is, and a psychic, she must have some cool magic to use, would she not? Some kind of magic battle she could do with Florentine? Not really. It's possible the budget and tech didn't allow for it, but her actions aren't the most graceful. How does Florentine, a man who's been alive since at least the 1200s, retaliate? With the most devastating of maneuvers. A kick to the shin. I mean, it is effective in any situation. Then he starts going all Wayne Brady on her and choking a bitch. Alf will warp in, sword in tow, and he tosses it like a javelin at Florentine, sending him plunging to his death. You know, from what I understand of the laws of this world, Alf shouldn't have been able to do this. Why now instead of before? Gaul knows his time has come to an end as he begins to cry out like a child, which Hawk silences with his boxing prowess.
Your time in this world has ended. The fool's hand is a dead man's hand. Prophecy will be fulfilled.
But this is where Rebecca and Adam will part. The watch of the cloaked guardian from earlier, Abaddon, is at his end. Rebecca will take his place. But they will part with a kiss, which loses that luster knowing those lips touch Florentine's lips, his mustache, amongst other things. Returning the sword to the Soul Stone, we'll find ourselves in what appears to be heaven, where Adam will have a short, tender reunion with his father.
Goodbye, my son. Adam.
Dad, there's so much I have to tell you.
My boy, your heart has already spoken.
They could have rolled the credits here after parting with Adam's father, but there's still one less task for us. Escape the mansion. Before we reach the front door, there's one final obstacle. This giant demonic beast. One that popped up in a cutscene earlier, but that was his only appearance. He goes down without much of a fight as we escape the mansion, which implodes in a manner that's a nod to the movie Poltergeist. So, what happens after? Does Adam have a closing monologue of his travels as he walks off into the night, destination unknown? Not quite.
So there it is. From beginning to end. The whole goddamn story. I know you think I'm crazy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Right? Now, if you don't mind, I'd rather you left me now. I'm very tired. I just want to go to sleep.
That's understandable, Adam. You've been through a traumatic experience.
Tell me about it.
You should try to rest a little.
Time for your medication, Adam.
That's the ending we're going with? Really? Now, you can look at this ending in a couple of ways. The game was all a fragment of Adam's imagination, something he conjured up. Yeah, that's lame beyond belief. Or the one I prefer is that this battle of light and darkness continues. While we don't see his face, his voice does sound different. I like to think this doctor talking to Adam is Belial. The camera puts emphasis on the hands of the doctor, and we did see Belial earlier dressed as a doctor when we first met him. Rebecca, here as a nurse, has come to break us out. Either or, it's a lame ending choice. I'd prefer an ending where Adam walks off into the night and the camera cuts to the remains of the mansion. The hand of Belial, made obvious with the gloves, pops out of the ground. I know, that's quite cliche, but far better than what we got here. Works better as a sequel hook, which they did have in mind but never came to fruition. While the game did get glowing reviews, sales numbers fell well below expectations. I came across an article that said it sold less than 500 units in Britain during its first week in December 1996. It did help that Realms was by far the most expensive game Gremlin had ever developed. The game took 2.5 years to develop when they planned for 1.5, which does lead me to wonder how sales would have been had it came out in late 1995 or early 1996. Beating game-changing shooters like Quake and Duke Nukem 3D to the market could have done wonders. Even then, this game must have been a marketer's nightmare. Trying to sell customers a game that crossed Doom and Myst must have been no easy feat. I can't speak for the time, but I don't see there being a huge customer crossover between frantic shooters and adventure fans. With this in mind, I did look up print advertisements for Realms. You have to love these marketing bullet points. Over 600 interactive objects, including more than 155 possible inventory items. Maps, weapons, and magical objects. Sure, that's going to sell our game. Even with the high costs and low sales, Gremlin Interactive would keep trucking for a few more years. After Infogrames bought them in 1999, they renamed them to Infogrames Sheffield House. Their final title would be 2000's Soulbringer. Infogrames would close the studio in 2003. From what I understand, Funbox Media owns the right to the IP, through a series of asset and company acquisitions over the years. They released this bare-bones port I'm playing here in 2011. As I brought up earlier, I would like to see a remaster of Realms. Less for the gameplay elements, but more in the cutscenes. One, to have the option of higher fidelity cutscenes. The second would be to see the hour or so of cutscenes they did cut out. Whether that's as deleted scenes or even integrating them back into the game into some kind of director's cut. It feels like something that would fall under the wheelhouse for Night Dive to look at. They've done some restoration remasters of older niche titles. Would it be one worth bringing back? That's hard to say. but it is one that more people should be aware of and experience. For Realms of the Haunting manages to create a compelling blend of genres with the FPS and point-and-click title at the forefront. While it's not as deep compared to its contemporaries for both these genres, it's very much a game where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. These early days before best practices emerge result in developers throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. As a result, there's little out there that does play like Realms. It's a game that enthralled me from beginning to end, where I couldn't wait to see what was waiting for me around the next corner. Yes, it can have some agonizing stretches and a bit of a messy plot, but the heart and soul put into it trumps these shortcomings. It's a great shame we never got to see a follow-up that built on its foundation. But what we had here for that foundation, it's a one-of-a-kind experience that's well worth exploring. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you've not done so. Curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below, whether you've played Realms or not. If you would like to support the channel further, do consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube member. You'll get earlier access to videos, your names in the credits, the option to ask questions in the post-video Q&A, and of course, my undying gratitude. And also, if you want, leave a one-time donation through a super thanks here on YouTube or through Ko-fi. On the note of credits, special shout out to the Boulder Punchers who give extra support to the channel on Patreon or YouTube memberships. For those in the complete global saturation tier, American Boot, Flan Nagel. For those in the thank you for your patronage tier, Tom Terrible. For those in the now this is Boulder punching tier, Ethan, James Warner, Cray, Natu, the original Narcy's Diet Thick Dew Neo Edition. For those in the Jill Sandwich tier, On Hell, Benji, Benny Winterdawn, BBF in Bloxburg, Dragonfang Studios, James Kilgore, Leonard Arnson, Logan Lepin, Mad Morpheus Gaming, Mikal B, Neko Pero, Sam Jones, Strababina, Vinyl Morpheus, Will Han, and Zin. Now for the post-video Q&A, so those in the Jill Sandwich tier and higher can ask these. Starting with Flan Nagel, what are some of the more memorable FMVs you have played and are there any you plan on covering for the channel? Maybe some like Quantum Gate. I haven't played a ton of FMV games outside what I've covered on the channel, Realms, Harvester, Night Trap. I did like that Goosebumps one with Jeff Goldblum. I did like the FMV series FMV Hell that Spoonie did back in the day. Lots of fun odds and ends there. One of my favorite AVGN videos is the one on Sega CD or Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Quantum Gate does look to be a bit of a fascinating fever dream. The Phantasmagoria titles would be a good fit for what I cover on the channel. Bad Mojo as well, the one where you play as a cockroach. For more recent titles in the realm, I am familiar with Her Story and Contradiction, although I doubt I would cover those. I'd have to dive in deeper to see if there's anything more recent that would be up my alley, but mostly I would stick to the older ones. So thank you, Flan Nagel, for your question. From Neko Pero, do you think we'll see developers dabble with sanity mechanics since Nintendo's patent on it from Eternal Darkness expired? Feels like a creative avenue waiting to be explored. I think it would fit a game with a premise like In Sound Mind, but I never did play that game. I'm sure there are some indie devs out there making a horror game with sanity mechanics. If not, please do. It's a very much a rich tapestry you could pull from. I remember perking up in Silent Hill F when I saw there was a sanity bar, although that turned out to be a bit of a misnomer for what it meant. But yes, again, this system is ripe for exploration. I would love to see Frictional Games make a go of it. They did have one with Amnesia the Dark Descent, but nowhere to the extent that Eternal Darkness does. Someone, please come along, most likely a small indie studio, and make a proper spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness. It's ripe for the picking. You'll stand out from your contemporaries if you do so. So thank you, Neko Pero, for the question. And from Ghana Barrage, if you're given the ability to play a game for the first time, which one would it be and why? I'm going to cheat, pick a few here that come to mind. Some Soul series titles would be a great fit. Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Vampire Bloodlines is another, Final Fantasy VI, Knights of the Old Republic 2 in particular, Morrowind, First Fallout, probably throw New Vegas in there. Sure, you're noticing a pattern of RPGs there. Something about being able to play an RPG again for the first time fits well for this question. The Bungie Halo titles would be great. It's such a shame that, though it shouldn't come to any surprise what's happened with Halo Campaign Devolved, as I know the nickname for it is, which is perfect for seeing how that turned out. More in the realm of horror, the Team Silent era of Silent Hill, especially the first 3 games. For Resident Evil, I especially say the first 1 through 4 would be great to experience those again for the first time without that prior knowledge. So thank you for the question, Ghana Barrage. Thanks for everyone else for the questions, and thanks again everyone for watching. I will see you in the next video. You have a heart of gold. Don't let them take it from you.
Maybe you could help me?
I just drove for 2 hours in a cab to get to a house in the middle of nowhere. I don't know why I'm here. I'm cold. I'm wet. People are trying to kill me. And to top it all off, I've just had a riveting conversation with my father. And normally that would be great. Except he's dead.